We were ecstatic when green light came.
We had CenturyLink for the last 6 years. They were our only option. Our upload and download speeds wouldn't even hit 1 megabyte per second.
So I'm trying to build a career to where I work remotely from home. But every time it would rain here, we'd have issues with the internet. There were times where I would have to write notes for the children.
So we contacted Greenlight. I'm paying for 40 megs and I'm getting 52. So would Greenlight being removed from Pine Tops be upsetting? Yes, 100% in many different angles.
There is no greater example of special interest in politics than what's going on right now. Because the only people who would be hurt would be
CenturyLink or Time Warner or XYZ, because they actually got competition now.
And it will help to bring jobs, and we desperately need those.
My bill at home went from $320 a month down to $140 a month.
This high-speed internet is, I think, the greatest thing that had taken place in our town since the town's been here.
We've got some people that are actually thinking about leaving Pine Tops because they're going to unplug us.
The problem we have with CenturyLink is the speed and access to the system and the cost of it.
We even had a situation here in our police department. Police department. Oh, we'll get there and so. They showed up a week later.
Big-time farmers are relying on their cell phone. It's because they won't run a line down.
We're being denied basic infrastructure.
It's one more example of small-town USA being bypassed.
We had dollars. We had the noise you get cranking. We still had that. We need another company here. And I don't understand all the laws behind it. I remember when Wilson put that in because a friend of mine works in it. He said they had to jump through a lot of hoops just to be able to do it in Wilson.
So we are building on our most unique and authentic assets in Wilson. So we have whirligigs, Wallace Simpson's whirligigs, which are incredibly authentic to Wilson. You can't find them anywhere else, or at least a collection this large anywhere else in the world. And of course, we have gigabit service. We are the fastest internet speeds in all of North Carolina. We have gigs and we have gigs, so we are Gig City.
Well, years ago, we were the world's largest tobacco market. And it was good then, but things have changed now. Wilson's Gig City now. I guess we've gone from megabytes to gigabytes, and don't ask me to explain all that either.
Do you think of broadband as a public utility?
Yeah, I really do. I sure do. Just like water, sewer. We provide water, we provide sewer, we provide electricity, and now we provide broadband to our citizens. We got some small towns that's been here wanting us to send it to them, but they're outside of Wilson County, so we can't do it right now. But I'm hoping that the FCC will come and overrule this mess. We had our broadband almost going before our provider found out about it. I guess we were just a little step ahead of them.
I've heard it was a real David versus Goliath story.
It was, that's what it was. Lost a few battles, but we won the war.
When I first moved to North Carolina, they hired us to do an assessment of what it would take the city of Wilson to provide cable and broadband service. They had to once again approve a rate increase by Time Warner Cable. And the council wasn't really happy about it. They said, is there any way that we can encourage there to be competition? And we said, yes, you can be the competition.
When the city of Wilson couldn't convince Time Warner Cable to upgrade internet and cable service, leaders borrowed $28 million to do it themselves.
Well, this is cool. Are you conducting a moon landing in here?
No, this is sort of the brain of the network from the perspective of where all the electronics reside. The fiber network in Wilson, you can think of it as a nervous system that stretches out across the community.
If I was looking at another internet service provider who's not using fiber, what would this look like?
It will look nothing like this. You see up there, right above, that bottom one is a CenturyLink cable.
And I just thought they were power lines. Is Time Warner, is it a fiber cable too?
They run fiber out to a certain point, and from that point it gets converted to coax.
So they have lots of fiber optics running throughout the city. They just don't run it to the homes.
Exactly.
Fiber optics are as thick as a hair, but it has infinite capacity, and it's light going over those glass strands. The reason it's infinite capacity is because they can divide the light into more and more colors, creating more and more pipes inside the pipe.
Our residential service is gigabit symmetrical.
What does that mean?
Is that roughly 100 times faster than, the typical residential internet connection in most places.
Who owns Greenlight?
So the community does here in Wilson.
The people own
The city of Wilson, yes.
Okay.
Wilson's history as a municipal electric utility made it easy for them to think about pushing electrons down pipes. It's what they've been doing for over 100 years. When a city like Wilson puts fiber to the home, Time Warner either has to step up its game or it has to try to stop it in some other way.
The telecoms argue that local governments get unfair tax advantages when they get into the broadband business.
There is a playbook that the cable industry tend to use when there's a community that wants to build their own broadband system, and to try to convince them this is a very complicated technology. We know what we're doing. You guys don't know what you're doing. If that doesn't work, then they try different levels of disinformation campaigns.
And, it was kind of ugly. I mean, we were accused of things that weren't so, and
So the cable company
were
making stuff up.
Oh yeah, I mean they accused me of driving a Ferrari, but I had an old Buick at that particular time, But
So you were front and center in the fight to bring muni broadband.
We were. We placed ourselves in that position by having the audacity to build fiber. We probably underestimated the battles in Raleigh and in the legislature because the state had originally approved the borrowing for us to borrow the money to build the system. Very quickly, the attention turned to the State House in Raleigh and to not just block us, but frankly to block any other municipalities from attempting a project like this in the future.
What was Time Warner's argument against you being able to build this network?
It was unfair government competition.
We have our local governments in direct competition with private industry.
The argument that somehow we had an unfair advantage was very hard for us to follow. When you consider the size of, for example, Time Warner Cable, the economies of scale that they enjoy, the access to capital that they enjoy.
What then happens is that the provider goes in competition with the municipality. It takes the profits it makes in other areas and then pouring it into undercutting the city's price.
And sometimes people would report negotiating their bill down to almost 50% of what they had been paying prior. And so we worried every day. It was intense.
Representative Marilyn Avila, with the backing of the telecom industry, wants to make it harder for more municipalities to jump into broadband sales against private providers.
Tell me how business is going to look at North Carolina when they see us as a predator.
Please do not deny our citizens in these rural areas these essential services.
So you built a high-speed fiber network, and then a law was passed preventing anyone else from doing that?
Yes, and also preventing us from expanding beyond the county, Wilson County, where we reside.
It does set some service area limitations, and we reached not total happiness.
I know we are the only ones in North Carolina's got it now. Just like other cities need it, but people are scared to talk right. They don't want to have to fight some large company.
The way you've drawn the bill, it's helping Time Warner maintain a monopoly. If 89% of the citizens are without high-speed internet service, a municipality can do nothing about going in to fix the problem.
When you talk about a city that's losing money, those people did not agree to that proposition.
I can be fired in a heartbeat in the next election if I don't do a good job here.
You know what I can't do? Fire the president of Time Warner.
Yeah.
I represent the broadband industry as chairman of Net Competition.
What is that? Who's a part of that?
It'd be all of the broadband ISPs that most all of the broadband ISPs that people use.
Well, they're monopolies, and they'll argue that they aren't.
What are their options if they want something? They have competitive alternatives.
They'll say you have a choice between satellite and cable TV.
Satellite, usually there's a couple of options there. It would not necessarily be the most efficient. So it is not a monopoly. People can go for free to McDonald's or to Starbucks or to their public library and do their internet.
You rarely see these large companies competing with each other. In fact, they're openly saying now the reason that Congress shouldn't worry about Comcast buying Time Warner is because they don't compete with each other.
Comcast and Time Warner isn't a monopoly. They are not directly competitive.
Private corporations are in control of the information coming into and out of communities.
Look, municipalities, especially the rural ones, do you think they're going to be able to keep up with the latest technology and the latest economics and the latest ability to keep their network at the top of its game? I don't think so.
If I was a competitor to the community broadband system and I thought it was going to fail, great. That's what I want. Then I can raise my prices again.
There are places that you're going to be able to get a list, and you will see dozens and dozens of muni broadband carcasses, and the taxpayer being left for the bill.
Well, they're just straight out not telling the truth. It's that simple.
There have been no tax dollars involved in this network whatsoever. Now we are fully cash flowing from our operating revenues, so we're self-sufficient.
At first, I really didn't like it because, I just didn't think the government ought to be in the. And as it progressed, Greenlight just did really well. And the service has been great. And I got it at my business and I've got it here.
Time Warner could have done the same thing they did, but, if they didn't take the chance.
Time Warner tries to monopolize this area. They try to push out CenturyLink, I know for sure.
Time Warner was not very user-friendly.
I had a lot of trouble with Time Warner. Double billing me.
I thought, hey, if the people, through their local government, decide they don't like the quality of service that they're getting, they ought to be able to organize through their government and say, I want something better, including the government building.
Right now, about 45 million Americans cannot purchase next generation broadband. Today, in 19 states, we've got laws on the books that stamp out competition and make it really difficult for communities to provide their own broadband. All of us, including the FCC, which is responsible for regulating this area, should do everything we can to push back on those old laws.
We sued Tennessee and North Carolina, making the argument this was an overreach of the state's authority.
Certain communities a few yards from town are stuck in a digital desert. Today we conclude to endorse measures that will break down barriers, particularly when the private sector has opted not to do so.
And what we're doing today is cutting away that red tape.
Reasonable people can disagree about the wisdom of such policies. Other people believe that municipal governments shouldn't be in the broadband business at all. I dissent.
We want to see the FCC do its job and regulate the internet for the people, not to regulate it for the corporations. We don't want you driving under the influence of Comcast. We want you driving the influence of the people.
For the FCC to approve us to go do it, and we did it, it's a wonderful thing that they did. Now, these people in Pine Tops, and you went, you see how excited they are to have this? And now their little neighboring towns, Microfields and all, and they want it. It's a snowball.
I guess they hooked me up in April, so it's still been a fairly short time period. I don't think we saw it coming as quickly as it did. I mean, we knew that a court case was pending, but I had no knowledge that it was going to happen that fast, and especially that it would happen against us. The FCC ruling made sense to me.
Why does it look like you might have to cut off service to Pine Tops?
So the Sixth Circuit recently ruled against the FCC.
Unfortunately, the Sixth Circuit disagreed with us.
An impact of that may be that we have to withdraw service from Pine Tops.
I hate this has happened, and I'll lay in bed at night and I think about it. But we don't know what's going to happen either.
I just got hired on in the finance department with GE Electric. I started this week, and I do about a 6-week training course and then on-the-job training.
So if the high-speed internet gets stripped away, will you lose your job?
She would. The internet wouldn't be fast enough.
It would not be fast enough. When you apply, they do a speed test.
So you're taking a step back in time again.
Yes, and I think we will honestly look to make a move.
So the FCC, they're not going to continue to fight?
They were not planning on appealing. And that's very disappointing.
It's kind of like giving a piece of candy to a kid, to a child, and just snatching it back and saying you can't have it.
If they have their way, Macclesfield won't even have the opportunity to experience Greenlight.
So it would be devastating to us.
Who has the authority to fix this problem?
The state level, somebody somewhere is pulling some strings.
I'd be interested to know who pushed this from the legislative end. Where did this issue originate?
Follow the money trail.
I was a co-sponsor of the Level Playing Field bill in 2011 when it was passed. The issue came to us, of course, through the telecoms. A couple of municipalities had started their own commercial broadband. That was the motivation for me, was just leveling the playing field to where the businesses wouldn't suffer because of the governments being able to undercut prices. This is a book of case studies. I think it's something like 39 case studies of municipal broadband systems and how they got started and how they failed.
So did you compile this yourself?
It was given to me. I asked for it, and it was brought to me.
Who provided it to you?
I'm not sure now.
Did you get any contributions from the telecom industry?
From the telecoms, it's not anything that's, majorly they pull a string and I jump.
How fast is your internet?
I'm supposedly 100 with Time Warner cable.
But what are you actually getting?
I have no clue. I haven't done a speed test in a while. Not since I decided I wanted to switch to a higher speed.
Do you know what the maximum is that many people in the rural areas get?
We're now in 2016, so I haven't looked at the current world.
In 5 years, it hasn't changed. So many people I've talked to, the maximum they can get is 1 megabyte per second, which is 1/100th what you're getting right now.
If the people do not have the service that they want and can get in their locality, then go through the prescribed directions as we laid them out.
It just seems like the intention of the bill may have not exactly worked out in the way that you had intended.
And you know what happens in legislation when you do that? People come back to the legislature and say, it's not working or we need to make changes. The general uptake for the internet is not near 100%. A lot of people, surprisingly enough, can live their lives without it.
In Pine Tops, do you know what that community is?
I'm familiar with the name, yes.
Okay.
That incursion into Pine Tops should not have happened until this thing was settled.
I know that they're all very concerned right now that they're going to lose this infrastructure because of the court ruling.
I would just prefer you take your film and destroy it. Because you come in here.
I'm giving you an example of an effect that this bill has had on the community.
I'm funding nursing homes. I'm funding psychiatric facilities for teenagers. And somebody comes to me and they're bitching because they can't get 50 megabits of internet. I'm sorry. My priority list is a lot different.
Federal Communications Commissioner Ajit Pai is getting a promotion from President Trump.
To be its new chairman, he has a dramatically different view that will be welcomed, I think, by internet providers.
They say the internet is a public good and should be regulated like one.
I could not disagree more. I think it's ridiculous for the FCC to suddenly say this marketplace is broken. My own view is that the internet should be run by technologists and engineers and business people, not by lawyers and bureaucrats.
The gentleman from Greenlight came out and said that they were going to be removed from the town of Pine Tops. We went off and we got CenturyLink back. About a week after that, we actually had CenturyLink come out and install. To our surprise, Greenlight was still in the area, so we went back to Greenlight. As of right now, they're not charging us anything. I know there's a whole lot of political stuff going on. Kind of just playing it by ear, waiting to see what the outcome is.
Wilson City Council stepped in and they were able to offer the service to Pine Tops free for up to 6 months while we worked on this issue. And after that 6 months, we'd be cut off.
The internet is not near 100%. A lot of people, surprisingly enough, can live their lives without it.
We don't need it because we're not as important as she is.
Yeah.
She has her 100 megabyte.
I mean, I'm absolutely convinced we are in the right on this.
Well, they're looking beyond that. That's the whole thing. They're looking at it. This would just be the start.
That's what
Obviously.
we are the test case.
Exactly.
And if we win, then they have lost a big part of the fight.
Yeah.
So they are fighting with everything they've got.